Hi guys, this is an update on the my $5 eBay motor and what I've done since I've got it. Turned out that the bottom cylinder and the bottom bearing were frozen. The carbon seal on the bottom broke. And the O-ring was as hard as a rock, so the water got in through the bottom of the crank. I ended up freeing up the bearing, but I replaced it. Also, the spacer I replaced too. I had a dickens of a time getting it off here. I had to use a lot of heat, but I finally got it off, so I replaced it. The crank looks good. I was surprised. Everything on the crank is nice. I ended up replacing 15 new bearings on the bottom because they were a little rusty. They weren't terrible. I could have cleaned them up, but I had plenty of them, so I put 15 new needles on the bottom. The tops were okay. Middle bearing was good. Top bearing was fine. But inside the carburetor was this. The whole carburetor was full, mostly on the top end. Was just full of this salt powder. And when I ended up taking it apart, trying to rebuild it, the metering vise, all the casting was broke around here from corrosion. All the threaded part gone. So this is trashed. So I ended up taking the linkage from another carburetor and put this style of choke linkage. I have the carburetor off camera. It's already done. I really rebuilt the carburetor. I had to change the top half and the bottom half. The bottom half here, it's a little dark, but all in here was corroded away. The idle bleed passageway, gone. So it's trash. And plus the lower needle valve broke off too. So I had to replace the carburetor. Luckily, they're very common. They use the same casting for many years, so they're very easy to get. And I have a bunch of them, so. But she's pretty much ready to button up. Like I said, I replaced the bottom carbon seal. Here's what's left of the float from the carburetor. I put all new rings in the motor, top and bottom. I managed to salvage 2 out of the 6 from the engine, so that's done. I cleaned up the reed plates, polished them all up. I rebuilt the recoil. That had a broken spring in it. Also had salt powder in it. Not too bad, but enough to corrode the spring in 3 places. So I changed the spring. I used the same rope. The rubber gasket was missing on here. I replaced that. I have it. And I'm going to touch it up with paint. I bought paint from vintage Outboard paints. 1958 Holiday Bronze. It's enamel, which is nice. Not cheap. It's $24 a can. $35 shipped to your doors. But for touch-up work, I'll have that can for quite a while. What else did I do? I said I did the carburetor. Let me go get the carburetor. Here's the carburetor we built. I replaced the bottom and top half, like I said. And I also had to swap over this piece because the other carburetor had were later models, and they have a different linkage, which I actually swapped back onto the bad carburetor. But they utilize a different choke system. But anyway, that's done. It's just a matter of taking the cotter pin out and swapping this brass piece over. Everything else is identical. So here's the carburetor all rebuilt, ready to go back onto the motor. Cylinder head looks good. There was a hole here, so I filled it up with Marine Tex. Sometimes with these motors, if you put them down really hard, the pin and the rubber will push really hard against here if you drop it on the back, and it'll actually puncture a hole and just puncture almost a perfectly round hole in the casting. I've seen that quite a bit on these old motors. So I just did a quickie repair on that. But now I'm ready to button it up. Seal the halves, and put it back together. And hopefully I'll have it running within a few days. We'll see. Depends on the weather and my ambition level. But that's an update on my $5 eBay motor. I think I covered everything. Yep. Stay tuned Be running pretty soon. Thanks for watching.